Hey guys, it's Zach here. And today I have a video I want to make that's, in all honesty, probably long overdue. And that thing would be a review. But more specifically, a review of one of my favorite masks in my collection. And if you are a fan of my channel, then I'm sure you recognize this silly little goober. For a good long while, he was the main mask I used, and honestly the face of my channel. And while I'm sure most of my fans are probably aware of that, because I still occasionally wear him to this day, what some of you might not know is I actually commissioned this mask from another creator I actually really like. And who might this Chad be? Why, it's Birdydogs, of course, also known as Rory. For a really long time, Birdydogs is like my main inspiration for even creating my channel to begin with. And when I saw that he opened up for commissions, I was like, you know what? I got some money. I'm probably never going to see this again. Let's do it. And with that, that brings me to the first segment of this video, the commissioning process. So the commissioning process, what was it and how did it go? Well, Birdydogs normally sells his pre-made masks on Etsy, but for this commission, to get it done, you had to go through a Google form. You would still buy it on Etsy, theoretically. Let's put a pin in that. And once you fill out the form, he'll pick a select few people and they pay and then you get your mask. I really want to be able to show you like the whole process and what I had to fill out, but unfortunately the form is no longer active and I don't have any screenshots saved, so I'm just gonna have to go off my memory. Which, unfortunately for all of you, is of a goldfish. So, sorry if there's any inconsistencies here. But based on what I remember, you basically just had to fill out your species, what kind of mask, blah blah blah, send some references over. I didn't really want to buy on Etsy because I just had some bad experiences with sellers on there before. One time getting completely scammed, another time I had to get a refund and Etsy just wouldn't do it. I knew Birdydogs was a trusted seller. I've just been burned by the Etsy company so many times. I just really didn't like using the site anymore. So I put in the notes that I would really prefer to use PayPal, and then I sent over my application. And I started waiting. It was a while before I really heard anything, and I was starting to think that... Baller! I got chosen for one of the masks, and Birdydogs was more than willing to accommodate the PayPal thing. I basically just sent over a quick email to make sure I wasn't breaking any boundaries. And sometime after that, I got my first work in progress video. I never specified I wanted a jaw, but Birdydogs thought it was necessary to my character, and I absolutely agree, it looks amazing. I did ask for him to make the eyes bigger because Zach's whole vibe is super cartoony. And sure enough, the next time I saw him painted, his eyes were brilliantly big and cartoony. Pretty darn soon, he had lovely cheek fluff and brilliant hair. And free of charge, Birdydogs even decided to throw in a posable magnetic tongue. It shortly arrived here safely, and I decided to do an unboxing video, and it's actually a pretty popular video, so I was really happy about that, because Birdydogs absolutely deserves the love for these magnificent masks. And with that, it's time to move on to our next segment, the review. I've decided to separate this review between the pros and the cons. I think we're going to start with the cons, so we can end off on a high note. First off, here is the mask. I'm just taking a quick video of it in my workshop and getting like a little overview. And that brings us to our first con, the nose. The nose shape itself is fine and I love it, it just has this little bump on it. When I looked back at the progress photos, they were there, but I just didn't notice it until it got here. And I don't want to sand it off because I don't want to repaint the whole thing. I just found it a little odd that that made it through to the final version. But it's pretty minor because it's only really super visible close up. The next thing is the vision. These eyes aren't actually the original eyes. This is what they used to look like. They were a much thicker mesh. I'm not actually sure what kind of mesh it is. But either way, despite these big eyes, it was actually quite difficult to see out of. It wasn't horrible. I mean, if you were just using the mask to record videos or walk around your house, it's fine. The problem was, I was planning on going to Motor City FurCon, and I didn't think these eyes were going to be easy enough to see out of if I wanted to walk around and wear it all day. There were going to be a lot of people there, and I really didn't want to be bumping into people or my surroundings, so I ended up just removing them and replacing them with my own eye mesh. I also want to emphasize, the vision wasn't terrible. It was fine if you're just like using it for videos, it just wasn't ideal for convention space. And I will say the craftsmanship on this was amazing because I literally had to really get in there to try and remove these eyes. I ended up actually having to cut them out because they were so well glued in, so I'll give props to Birdydogs for that. And my last major con is the tongue. Now, I'm not going to go too hard on Birdydogs for this because it was free, but it was a little disappointing because the magnets didn't really work. Now, they stuck, but like, I move around a lot in my videos. I'm pretty crazy. I mean, I'm known for being silly and eccentric, so when I shook my head, that tongue was falling out. So what I ended up doing is I just decided to get some, like, pink Velcro, glue it to the tongue, in the mouth, and it worked perfectly. Now, this last con is not a criticism of Birdydogs or his work, it's just something I think people should be aware of because it is the nature of foam clay. And I know this because I work with foam clay too on my masks. I use it to fill in the blanks and smooth out some spots on my masks. But what isn't really obvious from the pictures is foam clay is a little bit fragile, it cracks easy. So when you get a foam clay mask, you should be aware that if you bang it too hard on something, it could crack. This is just the nature of foam clay, and again, Birdydogs isn't responsible for that. I just think you guys should be aware that if you're getting a foam clay mask, you should be a little more careful with it than you would like a normal cat mask. And the next part is the pros. There's a lot of good things about this mask. Like I said earlier, it is super durable in terms of craftsmanship. That lining ain't coming off anytime soon. Like seriously, I got like some of it pulled up near the eyes, but I just couldn't do it without risking like damaging the mask, so I ended up having to cut out the eyes. Of course, normally you're not really supposed to replace them, so yeah, it's really good craftsmanship, very durable. Another good thing about this mask is the elastic is all hand sewn onto the lining. I've been wearing this mask for a ton of videos and I've never had any issue of it snapping or breaking. Another thing I like is that the elastic is very large, so you can tie it down to whatever size you need for your head, so don't worry, it will fit. Here you can see me doing a quick shake test. Now keep in mind, I also wear glasses, and this mask, once you get the elastic down to the right size, it really does stay on your face. Also, it goes without saying, the sculpting on this is amazing. Birdydogs could have easily just painted on those ridges on the ears, but he opted to sculpt them, and I really think it paid off. And of course, the fur matching to the gray is great, the hair is great, the painting is great, everything about this mask is so neat and tidy. And Birdydogs is also really flexible with my design changes. He never said no or I can't do that. I mean, I asked the eyes to be widened, I asked for extra details on the nose, like the black lines, I asked for the hair to be trimmed a little bit, because I thought the face was super cool and I wanted to see it. All in all, I asked for a lot of changes, and Birdydogs accommodated every single one. And I think it's really important as someone who takes commissions to be open to those kind of changes, because these characters are people's babies. Zach is like my baby. I wanted him to be perfect, and Birdydogs listened. And it looked brilliant. This mask, despite the cons I have with it, is so awesome. It looks exactly how I wanted it, if not better. And I highly recommend commissioning Birdydogs whenever he opens up his commissions. Seriously, he brought my character to life. I would highly recommend Birdydogs for someone who wants a fursuit, but don't really have the money for a fursuit. This is a really good alternative. It's like a fursuit, but a mask at the same time. And if you just put a hood over the back of your head, it totally looks seamless. And it's also super duper lightweight, like way lighter than a fursuit could ever be. And all in all, I give my final rating of this mask an 8.5 out of 10. Birdydogs masks are all beautiful, brilliant works of art. And for only $250, this mask was just a steal of a deal. If I've done my job correctly, Birdydogs Etsy should be linked in the description of this video. Again, highly recommend checking out these masks. They just blew me away. And with that, thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!